So this case takes place in Moscow, Idaho on November 13th, 2022. On November 13th, 2022, 4 University of Idaho students, and I'm going to say their names because I don't like addressing them as the Idaho 4, but obviously that's a faster way to get people to realize the case that you're talking about. So I'm going to go ahead and say their names. Xana Kernodle, Ethan Chapin, Kaylee Goncalves, and Madison Mogen were brutally murdered in their off-campus home. So here's the night that everything happened. On that Sunday, one of Xana's friends began calling Jasmine, Xana's sister, frantically and telling her to come to Xana's house, that something is wrong. Jasmine rushed over to Xana's and her roommate's house. And, Jasmine only lived 15 minutes away. So she's rushing over there. And the whole time she's rushing over there, she's calling Xana. And she's also calling Xana's boyfriend, who's Ethan Chapin, who was also in the house. She's also calling, but they're not answering. Xana and her boyfriend are not answering the phone. But she's calling them multiple times. While she's also rushing over there, she's also calling their dad, Jeffrey, who had literally just left from visiting them for dad's weekend and was already on his way home.
Dude.
Jasmine told him to meet her at Xana's house, that something is wrong. When they both got there, they found that the house was taped off by police. And when the police found out that they were the relatives of Xana, they escorted them to the police station. And that's when they told them the devastating news that Xana and 3 other individuals in that home were brutally murdered.
Dude.
Now, the other victims, there's 3 other victims that's in the house.
Right.
So, as you know, the police, they start to call around if the other, there's no other family members that were showing up at the house, because at the time, it was just Xana's sister, Jasmine, that had received a call that said that something was wrong. So now it's up to the police to notify the other 3 victims' families. So that's what they do. They start reaching out to the other victims' families. And Kaylee's family received a very vague phone call from them informing that something had happened, but they got no details.
What?
At around 4:00 in the afternoon that day, though, a deputy arrived at their door and broke the news to them that Kaylee and 3 others were brutally murdered. And they asked if one of the people that was murdered was Maddie. And yes, it was Maddie. And they suspected that because Maddie and Kaylee were inseparable. They were best friends since childhood. So they wanted to know, was Maddie there? And it was confirmed, yes. Maddie was also there. So, and Xana, like I said before, was dating Ethan Chapin, who was a triplet. He loved working in a tulip farm, boating, and hanging out with his siblings. Now, immediately after hearing this news, Steve and Christy Goncalves, Kaylee's parents, immediately started doing their own investigation.
That's good for them.
Yeah. So Kaylee's sister, Olivia, immediately took matters into her own hands as well. One friend, she took Kaylee's phone, went through her call log, and began cold calling all the recent numbers in the phone. Smart. One friend told her that Kaylee had been seen at a bar called the Corner Club Bar at around 1:07 a.m. and later at a grub truck, which a local famous, I think the name of it was called Grub Truck. Yeah, the name of it was called Grub Truck. It was a local famous food truck, famous for serving mac and cheese.
That sounds good, though. I'm not going to lie.
Sounds really good. Olivia also learned that Kaylee had texted a rideshare driver at around 1:45 a.m. requesting a ride from the grub truck to their home. And the rideshare driver mentioned that there was another person with her. So he didn't just only pick up Kaylee. There was another woman that was with her.
Okay.
Also, you should check the security camera that was on the side of the grub truck, because the grub truck has a security camera that's there. So maybe you should also check the security camera. Right. Now, they check the security footage and they were able to confirm that the person that Kaylee was with was Madison.
Okay.
Now, the rideshare driver said that he dropped them off at around 1:56 a.m. At 2:56 a.m., Kaylee made a phone call to her boyfriend, but he didn't answer. The Goncalves family believes that she fell asleep shortly after this. And according to the police affidavit, they believe that Kaylee and Maddie were stabbed between 4 and 4:25 a.m., while sleeping in the same bed, just like they had done their entire lives because they were best friends. So that's how they were found.
Right.
Now, Howard Bloom, who's a journalist who wrote extensively on this murder case for an online magazine, I believe it's called Airmail, is now working on a book about the case. So he's written plenty of things about the case. And he reported that the crime scene was so bloody that blood was seeping through the exterior walls of the house.
What?
Now, I've seen other videos about criminologists and forensic. I forgot the name of that job, but there's people that come in and study crime scenes, and they're able to just look around and tell how a murder happened, what might have been going on based on blood splatters, and different things about the crime scene. And the fact that I've never heard of a case in which blood is excreting out the side of the exterior walls. That means that blood was splattering everywhere. It's a brutal murder, and you're going to hear why in a second, why the murder was so bloody and brutal. So let me tell you how everyone was found. Xana and Ethan were found near Xana's bedroom on the second floor.
Makes sense.
And Kaylee and Maddie were found on the third floor in Maddie's room, sleeping side by side on a single bed.
Okay, so they lived in like a 3-story house then.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
So this is not a small house.
No.
And it houses, and now they're not the only ones in the house. I'm going to get to, there's 2 other people that live there, and they're actually the survivors. And what they saw and what they experienced during this time is going to be very important to this case as well. So Christy and Steve, the parents of Kaylee, spoke with coroner Kathy Mabbitt before the gag order was issued by the courts. And she explained to them how the 2 girls were positioned when they were found. The headboard of the bed was against the wall, and the left side of the bed was also touching the wall, meaning that one person
was cornered out.
Would be cornered in, and one person would be closest to the door.
Right.
Now, Maddie was sleeping on the outside of the bed, and Kaylee was on the inside. Maddie is believed to have been the very first victim of this killer, and evidence suggests that Kaylee woke up and tried to get away, but obviously couldn't because of how the bed was positioned, and she's kind of cornered in. Now, evidence suggests that Kaylee woke up and was trying to get away but couldn't. Now, like I said before, they were not the only ones that lived there. There were 2 survivors in that house that night, and one of them's name is Dylan Mortensen. She has described seeing the intruder. She is the only one of the 2 survivors that actually can give a somewhat solid description of the intruder. She described him as a man of not muscular build, but athletic. Okay. Dressed in all black, a ski mask, and has bushy eyebrows because his ski mask was covering, I think, up to his nose. So she was able to see, I believe, his eyes and his eyebrows, and she described it as being bushy.
But how did she kind of get away and not like survive?
So, I don't think Brianna Fox is an investigator. I forgot her exact title, but I'm going to say she's an investigator on the case because she does look into it. She describes he would have been probably really tired after stabbing for over a minute and a half, because, anybody that's done a combat sport knows, right? Like, there's a difference between, let's say, hitting a heavy bag and lifting weights, and then when you actually get into like a boxing ring or a cage and you do a physical combat. Yeah,
like actual physical combat
where you'd be stabbing or punching or kicking. Like, that takes a lot out of you. Yeah. And the fact that he had, at this point, murdered 4 people, he's stabbing for quite some time. He would have been physically exhausted and probably just didn't want to attack them, continue attacking anybody else.